Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
응답하라 여친. Go to the into the shit.
Back to the 경 to the Jew. Hey, Jane. Our signature. You know,
Yeah.
I know we talked about changing it at some point,
Uh-huh.
but it's like it's got now a charm to it.
Yeah.
You felt that too?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like why fix it if
yeah,
it's not
it's
broken?
got our little like vintage. I don't know why.
It feels vintage.
We've
now.
only been on for 1 year. Why do I say vintage? But
we're basically saying, for our non-Korean listeners, we're saying each other's Korean names.
It was a little inspiration from Attorney Woo
Mm-hmm.
and our throwback to Reply 1988.
1988.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And speaking of the 80s in Korea.
Oh. So
that is what we want to talk about today.
Yeah. Korea is. This is what some of my followers asked me, like, can you explain what's happening in Korea?
Yeah.
And I just said, as the kids are saying, or the term they use, the president of South Korea is crashing out on live, like minute by minute, making the worst possible decisions. Did you see this coming? Martial law being declared.
I don't follow Korean politics. I saw the news alert on, what was it, Tuesday?
Yeah.
And I just had to, do a double take and say, what is this? What's going on?
Yeah.
What?
It's bad. If that had happened in the U.S., if Trump had declared martial law,
it's like Handmaid's Tale.
Yeah, it's really, and honestly, I felt like it was kind of a foreshadow of what could happen. Not
here or there.
Something that could happen, because you know what they're calling him, right?
What are they calling him?
Korean Trump.
Yeah.
And he has that. He has.
Yeah.
He's conservative.
That's the only way I could explain it to the kids.
Yeah, he's a
to
Korean
my kids.
Trump.
Yeah.
He won. So I mean, I kind of follow Korean news, not as, and I'm definitely not a political expert by any means. But even when he was elected, he won very narrow margins, and he's conservative, and he always had this like speaking points like Trump, like, I'm gonna get Korea back to where it needs to be. Like he was gonna make Korea great again, which it was very off-putting to begin with. And then he had his wife, who is a total. She looks like a Prio, fox, and Korean people.
She looks plastic.
Yeah, she's very plastic.
Yeah.
She's got a whole new face.
Yes.
From when the presidency started to now. And she was accused of receiving bribes, which, looking at that woman, like, everything screams,
bribes.
She takes bribes. And he was also being investigated for corruption and receiving bribes as well. So
he sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Right, exactly. And then I also believe that people in his party were also being investigated, and they were falling like flies. So there was a lot of pressure leading up to this, and his popularity was dropping at such staggering rate. So I think he felt the pressure, and maybe internally, it wouldn't surprise me if they were closing in on something that he did, where it was going sour for him, and so he felt like he had to pull this move to distract and also take over government.
Yeah.
But not since the 80s. God, it's craziness. It's crazy town. People.
Yeah, because we see references to that in Reply 1988.
Yeah.
Because they've just come out of it, I think.
Yeah.
Right? And
the daughter, right? She would always go to the
protesting, but just how fearful her parents were.
Right.
Because
they're
that would be a permanent mark.
There. Yeah.
Yep. Permanent mark. And, there was this real fear of what going against the government could do for your future.
And they were hunting the protesters down.
Yes, exactly. And that was scary. That was scary.
Yeah.
And that was something that I didn't have a lot of knowledge of.
That's crazy that we can tie it back to
Yeah.
our show reference.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
The 80s. I mean, it was when they were very a lot of families, like working class families, they were poor.
Yeah.
You know, it was before like that era of prosperity.
Yeah.
That, you know, when we think of Korea today.
Yeah. We were really starting out like from the bottom.
Mhm.
And you know what's funny? I actually remember also being in Korea when Do Tae-woo also got impeached for embezzling. And I was a kid, and I remember.
You remember that?
I do remember all the posters in Korea with his face all like black lined around his face. And I remember the coverage of him getting sent to jail. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
That I can remember that. So I'm like, wow, it's inevitable he's going to get impeached. I mean, I'm actually surprised that he hasn't stepped down himself. Like, resigned.
Surprised? I mean, if he's Korea's Trump.
Right, never mind.
Our Trump would never do that.
I know, that's true. And you know what? What do you think Trump is thinking when he sees this international coverage happening? I think he would be thinking, I would have gotten it done right. I would have taken over.
Right.
Like, he was stupid. He didn't do it right. You know what I think happened? I think there was somebody on the inside that alerted Parliament. Because the way they reacted.
In what, 5, 6 hours?
It was so swift.
Yeah.
I was like, there had to have been somebody that they put on his ass to alert them of his every move.
Yeah.
Because they were ready to go. And oh my gosh, Jane, did you see the TikToks of the ajushis climbing over the gate to get into the Parliament office? They were living it themselves. It was
kind of crazy. Yeah.
Can you believe we're living in we're living in such unprecedented times. We are. And then the United Healthcare
oh my gosh, the CEO,
everything is a movie
shooting,
right now.
Yeah.
Wasn't there that Denzel Washington movie where he was going after a CEO of some healthcare insurance company because his wife or his daughter wasn't going to get covered, and that was the only way? Like, everything's a movie right now. We're living in the movies. It is,
well, that's what I was going to say. I was like, I can only imagine the dramas, the movies that this will inspire. There's probably
scenarios getting written out right now. The screenplays or all the screenwriters of Korea are just like on fire right now. Not to mention, I thought the biggest scandal that's gonna come out of Korea this year was Jong Woo-sung.
Major ick.
Yeah. I thought that was gonna be our big scandal, and then wow, like the president decided, no, I'm going to protect Jong Woo-sung and put out martial law and just
maybe that's the best thing to happen to him.
That is.
Because it was the biggest headline.
It was.
For a while. For a hot second. Like, maybe for a few days.
I'm not even disappointed. I'm like, honestly.
Disappointed in what?
I'm not disappointed in him.
In Jong Woo-sung?
Yeah. I feel... No, you know what? I am disappointed, but... I'm not surprised.
So Jong Woo-sung is the Korean actor.
And I have loved him. I love... What's the thing that you watched? Do you remember? There was a one where he's really sad in it. I mean, I think he does a lot of sad ones, actually.
He's like a little older, so I feel like the...
Lee Jung-jae is also his...
Yeah.
He's probably, what, 50s?
Yeah.
Yeah. But he was a hottie.
Yes.
There's a drama or movie I know that I did fall in love with him at some point.
So then this model, Moon Ga-bin, puts this cryptic Instagram post saying that she became a mom, right? And then she basically just kind of signed off after this long explanation that she unexpectedly became a mom and she's learning this new role.
Basically, and it sounds like they were like hookup buddies, and she got pregnant. But she supposedly, allegedly, asked him, like, I have your child.
Yes.
Should we get married? Because in Korea, that's very typical. If you get someone pregnant, we're old school that way. Like, you're going to wed that woman.
책임져.
Oh, 책임져.
Yeah, take responsibility.
책임져. Exactly. But he refused.
Because he was already in a relationship, right? Long time relationship.
Yeah. All of it is it. Because wasn't she? So and then they did the timeline and they think it might have overlapped or no?
I think they
suspect it might have overlapped. And I just have a feeling, and if you've seen Moongabi, like she's not very Korean, like people think she's mixed.
Because she's
very tan.
She has darker complexion.
And she owns it. She's not one of these like, I'm trying to look white as I can possibly.
Yes, she doesn't have that typical Korean aesthetic.
Yeah, she's like Jessie.
Yes, exactly.
K-pop Jessie. Like she's like
very
I got
sexy.
Curves. Yeah, very leans into the sexy.
Yes.
But this is I hate that patriarchy, like it's here. There's girls you play with, and then there's girls you take home to meet your parents. And I'm not saying that's my opinion, but this is how it's rooted in Korean culture of men's mindset. Right. That's not the kind of girl you bring home. Although he's a fucking ajashi.
I hate that. I hate that.
He's like 20 years older than her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least.
Probably more than 20.
I thought he was more like 30 years older than her.
Anyways. So he already has another girl that he's been with, and he's like, I'm going to be a good father. And then the weirdest thing,
he talked about it, right?
In like a Oscar setting, like an Emmy award show.
That's weird.
I'm like, why?
I didn't watch it, but what did he say?
He came on. You know why? Because he was about. I guess so. I guess the spotlight's been on him.
Okay.
And there's the Blue Dragon Award show.
Yes.
And he had to present for a movie he did. So I guess he felt like he can't not address it, but it was so gross.
It's like the elephant in the room.
He came on, and people started applauding.
Why?
Like as if he was a victim.
And then did you see the cutaway of Hetty? We've talked about her. Yeah.
Like, ew. Thank God for her. But a lot of people were in praise of him, and he said,
what were they praising him for?
He said, what did he say? He
said, enduring the scandal?
Yeah. Yes.
Showing up amid the scandal?
Because he said, I apologize if my actions have, I hope it doesn't take away from this movie. We worked so hard on it, blah, blah, blah.
Right. Oh, and then there was that controversy.
But I'm going to be a father. That's my responsibility, and I will definitely take good care of my son, blah, blah, blah. And then,
so they were applauding.
Praise for
That's
doing
weird.
the bare minimum, right?
Yeah.
The absolute minimum. But yeah, it was gross. It was ick all around. And sadly, my favorite is Kong Yu.
Yeah.
And I just know Kong Yu's fucking around. But he's just keeping it really well.
We have to separate.
There's no way good-looking men.
No, there's no way.
Okay, have gone around good-looking men of like elite, star power are staying celibate for 40 at the grown age of 40, 50 years old. Okay,
we don't expect them to be celibate. We just expect them to be decent.
Right. And is it not decent? I mean, okay, he acknowledged, yes, I have a baby mama, but I'm not going to marry her. What gives you the ick?
Just, everything.
We can't even talk about it without scrunching our face. What gives you the ick? What about it? What's the worst sin?
That's a good question there.
Because technically, people have one night stands.
Yeah.
People.
And that happens.
That doesn't mean it's a commitment.
Yeah.
Women are taught, don't sleep with men because, it's not a promise unless they put a ring on it. So what about it gives you the most ick in this situation?
Well, I think the fact that he was getting applauded gives me the ick, as if he's some kind of hero or a flawed hero even.
And they're going to repaint the narrative.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they're going to look at a girl like Moongabi. She looks like Jessie, K-pop. It's not the typical Korean drama. I mean, not that we want to be basing around Korean drama, but women in Korea that are held on a pedestal and made for us to believe, to follow, are like the pure, innocent, light-skinned, like there's a whole thing, and she doesn't fit any of those boxes.
Yeah, yeah.
And she, she also wears like super tight clothes. I mean, she leans into the sexy model.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of the discourse about her.
Yeah.
Right? Other than,
but I think
when
that
talking
they're gonna,
about the revelation that they have a love child.
But as to what you were saying about why are they praising him, I think they're looking at it like, oh, he's holding his head high. He's not
nothing
hiding.
will happen to his career.
Yeah, absolutely.
Her career,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think
she obviously felt like she had to disappear.
Yeah.
And I don't know how. Yeah.
What would you have said, do you think, if he married her?
Well, I wouldn't have any.
I know, but
opinion.
You got the ick, Jane.
Oh, I got the ick because she had to reveal that, and then she disappeared. Like she had to just go.
It's like her shame.
And then the narrative is like him, and then he's like addressing it and apologizing. Like it's
a public service announcement.
You're not a public servant. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So it doesn't bother you,
but then,
go ahead. You do what you.
But you're doing that
do.
because you want your movie to be successful, and
yeah.
It's just that all of that is ick, like that celebrity life, and yeah.
But this is very typical, and I try to say
it
this.
Is.
There's so many stories like this. It's just now coming out more frequently because we live in the digital era.
Yes,
but it was like. You're right. Korean men haven't changed. That's how they've always been. Not to mention, look at like the Philippines. There's so many Filipino women having Korean Filipino babies because the Korean men come in flocks and have their fun, and then they impregnate. Did you know? There's so many Korean Filipino babies, and there's no way for those women to know or hunt down the men because they don't even tell them their real names.
That's terrible.
So that's a thing.
Oh,
and then they go back to Korea and marry
with their
maybe
already existing families,
exactly, or like more marriage material women, right?
Yeah,
that's anyways.
Yeah,
it's not all K-pop and Korean dramas and rainbows in Korea, y'all.
And that's why it does so well. That Korean content,
fantasy, that's why we have such great writers, because they have to really get their imagination spinning to produce
in this fantasy world where it's all wholesome and honorable and
baby daddy. He's a baby daddy that's not gonna take care of his baby mama.
Does he have any other kids? Not that he
we
knows
know of.
Yeah.
It's honestly shocking. I mean, look at Nick Cannon. How many does he have? 40 kids? So, on the one hand,
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk.
Yeah, he has a lot of kids too. I know.
But Korea is in a however, in all this chaos, I will have to say I was really proud of the Korean citizens coming together swiftly, and they are demanding impeachment, which is going to get voted for. which I'm sure there's no doubt in my mind he's going to get impeached. Mm-hmm. But the Korean people know how to protest.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously, people are trying to be like, oh, I don't, we could never do that in the U.S. We could never come together. They're so, they know how to react. They know that the power is with them. But it's not comparable. Mm-hmm. I mean, Korea is smaller than state of Washington.
Yes.
So you have...
And it's still very fresh in their memory of what it was like to be under like a dictator.
And also the Korean people, they grew up in a collective culture where it's always imperative that you put the safety of the greater group before yourself. We live in America, it's every man for himself.
Yeah.
For that kind of mindset to come together all across 50 states, that's a tall order. I don't know. I mean, I didn't think that the election would be... It's not a landslide win, but it felt like it. I didn't think we would be that off in even coming to terms.
Yeah.
With voting for a felon. But.
Okay, does this scare you? Because I want to, you're talking about the collective mindset in Korea and stuff. I see some of that collective mindset in Trump supporters. Like an ability to mobilize and find commonality where they're fiercely committed. And I think that's somewhat lacking on
the Democratic side.
Yes. Yeah.
But yet, right? Mm-hmm. That sheep mentality exists in the Republican Party because of how they are.
Yeah.
So, like, the reason we can't organize as well is because we're not sheep.
Yeah.
It's such
I think democracy we have to defend it. It's never something just to take for granted.
Right.
And I think that's what the Korean citizens learned.
Yeah.
Is once it was under threat, then they were all ready to mobilize and say, our democracy is not going to go down like this.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no way that one person can do that just because he has the power.
Right.
I wonder how that scenario is still a little bit, way more far-fetched here to imagine.
Yeah.
But also, it's hard to imagine how we would all collectively react.
It made me, like I told you, like, it feels like a foreshadow. I don't see Trump being in office going smoothly. Mm-hmm. Like, he's just not the type of person to, he's a complete narcissist. Mm-hmm. I just don't see him smoothly. Because, what ticked off that Korean president? Like, everybody's like, what made him do it? He claims he felt the threat of too many North Korean sympathizers.
Right.
And there's no validity in that. They fact-checked the hell out of that. There's no validity. I just feel like he has that narcissist quality that's very much like Trumpian, where he wanted to go down as having done something.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't you feel? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. And like the reality is those people will always exist. And those people will always, I think have the ability to rise to a position of power like that. So it's up to all the rest of us to protect.
Did you hear that, like, Pentagon's already, before this even happened, they were asking questions like, what are we
prepared for something like that?
Like, when Trump's in office, is there, what legal things can we do to resist or to the fact that they're even considering those questions, like, is there routes of actions we can take if we don't agree?
Yeah.
That discourse is happening. That's alarming.
It's alarming. At the same time, it's good that it's happening.
Yes. Yeah.
It's to our benefit.
That's a good way to look at it.
It's to our benefit that this will be his second time in office.
Do you think it's going to go smoothly?
No, I don't. But I think, if anything, we know a little bit
of what he's capable of.
Yeah.
I still can't believe that that the insurrection just went by like a blip. Like, if that happened in Korea...
I've been thinking about January 6th a lot.
If that happened in Korea, every single one of those people would have been in jail.
Yeah.
And it would have immediately been blamed on the president, and he would have been held accountable.
Yeah, Korea's very good about that.
Accountability.
Yes.
In that way.
Yes.
We love
the
to
finger
punish.
Pointing. They love shaming leaders, celebrities, shame culture.
We're really good at canceling.
We're good at cancel
people
culture.
People say cancel culture can't happen, can't be done.
Yeah.
Korea
we're
can
also
do
good
it.
at like canceling the cancel, and reversing that.
I mean, Korea will cancel somebody to their death.
Yeah,
we've seen it.
Quite literally.
We've seen it. We've seen people choose death over living in Korea, which is why we would never, both of us have said we would never live in Korea.
Yeah.
Like, we would visit there, but we would never actually live there.
Yeah. It's funny to see those TikToks of foreigners living in Korea talking about why they love to live in Korea. And I was just chuckling because one of them said, "Oh yeah, like I don't feel as pressured here to work as in America."
That is
and some of the Koreans in the comments, like, what are you just doing there? Just burning money?
Or they get they don't recognize that they're not having a normal life.
You're not having a normal life. Yeah. And even when we go and visit and, we're like, we love Korea. Can't wait to go back. We're not experiencing the normal life.
You're living a tourist life.
Yeah.
And, I hate the fact that they're rewarded for it in Korea being still, because it's still considered like different, right? It's such a homogenized environment that if you are a foreigner, it's still like, oh, you're different.
Yeah.
You're not what we're used to. So they get benefits and they love it, but they don't fully acknowledge that aspect.
No.
And that pisses me off because it's like, the idea that they think that they're having a real normal Korean experience is just you have no idea. The work culture in Korea is, I mean, this is exactly
we have
why
friends who
work
come
around
here
the clock.
to study in the get an MBA and they never go back. Because they're like, why?
And it's
like
not
no life outside of work.
And the whole 4B movement that Westerners love talking about, it's not actually, it doesn't actually exist in Korea.
Can you explain 4B?
It's the B's are the, birth, marriage, what is the other one? Birth, marriage, relationship?
I think so.
Relationship, birth, marriage. There must be another one. What's the 4 B's?
I don't know.
Birth, relationship. There's one more.
Okay.
But basically, it's like saying no to men, saying no to kids, saying no to relationships, that it's all going to be about resistance of the patriarchy. And Western women love that because they think the singular issue in society, especially cis white women, is just men.
Yeah.
But that's not a real movement happening in Korea. We went to Korea. I went in May. You went in
October.
Right?
Yeah, 6 months before you.
nobody in Korea, like the everyday person in Korea, I talked to everyday person in Korea while I was getting my hair done, while I was getting, my drinks at a coffee shop. I'd be like, what do you think about the 4B movement? They're like, what? They don't have a fucking clue. They don't even know what and then like once you explain it, this thing that Westerners are talking about. Like that's so like they literally one lady said to me, it's like, 그 미친년들이야. It's the crazies. That's how they perceive
so it's seen
it.
as very, very extreme.
Yeah, totally on the outer like fringes. Whatever picture they took of the protest is like the slightest fraction of the Korean population. And they're also very transphobic. They're basically like women who hate everything. It's nothing to be admired. They hate everyone. The real reason there is birth decline and not a lot of people getting married is because the work-life balance doesn't exist.
It's so hard.
I talked to the women at the hair salons. None of them were married. They're like, I can barely pay the bills for myself. And I work around the clock.
Yeah.
Who has time to date? That's the real issue in Korea.
Yeah.
So, and I guess there is sort of the root problem is like, okay, if you're gonna make time to date someone, they better fucking be worth it.
Yes.
Like if I'm gonna date you, you better be like a prize man. And of course that doesn't exist.
Dating sounds very exhausting in Korea.
Yeah.
In that
culture. Because you're not dating just to have fun.
No.
You're dating like really like, am I gonna have a life with you? Because if not, I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
And that's stressful, but that's the reality.
Yeah.
Of course, foreigners have no taste of that because they're not they're still making American money.
Yes.
Living in Korea.
Right.
They either have jobs still that they're doing remotely
or they're like content creating.
Yeah. And the kind of money that they make content creating in Korea is not the kind of money content creators in Korea make.
Right.
It's not the same. And they're taking full advantage, but they won't disclose their privilege or how much, extra access they have.
Yeah. Oh, it reminds me a little bit about there was a big push when I was in college and young adult of Korean Americans, like people my age, going to Korea to live and work for a year or two and just to shore up cash because you can make a lot of money teaching English in Korea. Yeah. I don't know if that's the same now.
Apparently
I feel like
it's not the case as much anymore because there's been such a flood, right?
Yeah.
And so obviously when you saturate the market, it's no longer going to be advantageous.
Yeah. I mean, they were like living the life.
Do you ever like
free housing?
You had done that?
I wasn't in a position at the time to do that because I was obviously focused on my career path. So it didn't serve me. But if I just wanted to make money, then yeah.
You've never been that girl, Jane. You've never been just about make my money. Which is why
I feel like there were a lot of easy, like everything that I did, I feel like there were easier ways to do it.
Give me an example. Is there one that you regret?
No, there's not one that I regret, but there isn't one that I regret, honestly. But I do think that we had periods of really hard times of not having a lot to our name and being worried about making rent every month. Yeah. Having 2 babies, like not having a big paycheck, but being in the job because it's in the field that I want to continue pursuing. And then having to adjust because of reality, and we still don't live near relatives where I would love for my kids who are 8 and 10 now to have a closer relationship with their grandparents, but it's likely that they won't have that because we're going to continue living here in Washington and only able to fly home a few times a year. that's the reality that we chose, yes, but then we kind of also like ended up here with different, you know, different choices you make at the forks in our path.
How did you decide Seattle?
Oh, it was there was just an opportunity for Ben.
What it was. And they're not easy to come by.
They're not easy to come by. And so for us, it was like we should probably take it because it's an opportunity for us to move back west when indefinitely we would have been in Michigan.
Would your first option have been to be in California?
Yes.
But there were no...
Yeah, at the time there were no
opportunities,
nor were we looking. So this Seattle thing kind of came when we weren't looking. It just kind of
landed
fell into
on
our
your lap. Yeah,
exactly.
And then you're like, this is a gift, and we need to act on it.
Yeah, so we're very glad we did.
That's so
good. We're very, very glad we did. But again, it changed the trajectory for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I knew when we took it, we accepted that we likely weren't going to go back to California for some time, if at all. And that's the only way I would have agreed to come here anyway, because I just don't want to keep uprooting our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so now I'm feeling very much like we're here. We're settled. I'm not really looking for the next thing, you know? And so if life takes us there, then we'll have to make the decision at that time, right? But I look at like my sister who's living near my parents, and of course, like it's a tough life stage for them. They're raising a baby, but they have so much support. So much support, and I just feel their experience is so different because I went through all of that. I went through that time where it's hard. You're not making a lot of money. You're living paycheck to paycheck. But then to have like both sets of grandparents there.
Yeah.
You know?
That's huge.
It's
huge.
It's huge.
Yes.
And that's something that we didn't have. So there is like that's when I
irritated.
Oh, of course. All the time.
Like, have you ever like snapped when they complain?
No, I haven't snapped, but I've just like chuckled. Like
you're such a good person.
No, it's not because I am. It's just because you know, I can't trust myself. Like I would either say something very snarky.
I know I would fuck up and say something under my breath or like don't like you know, I would not. You're good to know that you wouldn't trust yourself.
Okay, can I tell you, like there was a time when Ruby was very, very, very ill. She had RSV, and so she was in the hospital, like in the ICU, sedated, intubated for 3 weeks.
Oh, my God.
And I'm working a job. I was new at my job at the time. Thankfully, it was a hospital job. So, unfortunately, she wasn't at
You were at a hospital job?
Yeah, I was, I worked in healthcare communications.
Wow.
So this was like after I left news, and Ben was working full time by then, but he couldn't work. Like we both basically, like we had no family and no like close friends that had the ability to relieve us at the hospital, but one of us has to be at the bedside around the clock.
Wow.
Even though they're telling us you can go, and I was like, there's absolutely no way I'm leaving
my
her side.
ICU, yeah.
But there were a lot of families who had to do that because they didn't have flexible jobs.
Yes.
And that's where I felt really like this is life or death.
I know.
This is life or death, and it determines the quality of care that you get.
And this was in Michigan?
This is in Michigan, yeah. My parents were unable to come to us because they were on like a 2-week cruise in New Zealand and Australia, and
I mean, and they had no idea that this could be.
They had a little bit of idea, but I really withheld a lot of details because I didn't want to scare them. But it was like probably the scariest time in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. Just hearing about it is sending chills.
Yeah, and it was during this time, Christmas time. So I'm always mindful of that. Is like, whew, like every year since then, I was like, oh my gosh, like
remember that time?
Yeah, that was 2 years ago. That was 3 years ago. So on and so forth. But if we were living near our parents, it would have been a world of difference. Yeah. So now when I hear my sister say, oh my gosh, like we're going to go through, because, you know, like my parents were traveling and then I think her in-laws were traveling, and she's like, we're going to go through a period of 2 weeks where there's no grandparent around. I hear that and I can't say anything because I will say something very snarky.
You're good to, but the fact
all
that
I can say is, yeah, it's hard. I'm like, oh, yeah, that's hard. But in my mind, I'm like, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that, person. You know?
You're such a good person.
I mean, I don't know how we got on that tangent. But
I mean, it's not their fault, obviously.
No.
But like, did you feel any kind of resentment towards your parents?
At that time, no, because that was just the norm. You know, it was like, how could I ask them to travel that far from California to Michigan just to relieve us? You know?
Have they ever talked to you about that time to you?
Not really. I don't think
you didn't even have the luxury of mind.
I did not have the luxury of mind.
My mom did survival mode.
When after Ruby got discharged, my mother-in-law came for a few weeks during that hospitalization, and then my mom came for a month to kind of help with the recovery, and that was immensely helpful.
Yeah,
and I'm so thankful that she was able to do that.
Yeah, where was Ben's parents?
They also, I mean, they were willing to come out, but
you're like, you know,
I can't handle that stress.
Never mind. Why did I even ask that? Yeah. That was such a dumb question.
No, but then this will give you a picture of how dire it was, because maybe after the first week of Ruby in the hospital, I told Ben and I said, you have to call your mom and ask her to come.
Yeah.
You have to, because we cannot do this alone. And my parents are out of the country. Yeah. And of course she came in a heartbeat, right? Like she came like the very next day. Yeah. Okay. And she would have stayed longer, but I was like, I need the space. Like
now I am of mind.
Yes.
So
yeah.
please.
Now I am of sound mind and sound body, but thank you. Thank you so much for I'm back support.
To my senses.
No, I was very, very, very thankful. But yeah, it's,
people are going to think I'm in love with you because I say it every time. Like,
oh my gosh.
No, this is why I adore you, because you persevere. This is where you get your empathy from, because you've been there and you know the struggle.
I wouldn't take that back, because it made us who we are.
Yeah.
It made us appreciate where we are now.
Yes. And I see that in you. I see that in you. You don't take things for granted. Yeah. You are and you always, we talk about like everything to nothing, but there are times you're like, oh, I remember that. It's like one of those moments that's seared into your soul, how difficult that was.
Yeah. We're always like, Ben and I were always like, remember where we came from, like the struggle bus. Like, you know, when I was getting rid of like old dishes, I was like, oh, honey, this was when, you know, we lived in a tiny apartment. Yeah. You know, I brought it with me, and now it's finally going to a good place or a better, you know, moving on. And Ben will say, thank you for your service, you know, and we would like KonMari or stuff like that. But yeah, I think when we're able to travel, when we're able to like give our kids things and not think about it, not have it be a burden. We always think about, remember when it was a burden? Remember when this was hard or this was a big deal? Yeah. You know, like going to California like once a year. I mean, we didn't go to California in the holidays. It was too expensive. We just didn't, you know? And so a lot of it was just, you know, making do.
You've come a long way.
Yeah. And so
That makes everything extra.
It does.
It's a bittersweet thing.
It is bittersweet. But also like how easily we forget, right? So I think it's just we always have to remind ourselves.
That's true. And that's, you know, even Adonis will be sitting around and be like, look at us. Traveling to Hawaii every year. Like,
what a luxury.
I never even dreamed.
No.
I didn't even know Hawaii existed.
Yeah, I didn't go to Hawaii. I went to Hawaii as an adult for the first time. Yeah.
I didn't even know that was like where people go.
Uh-huh.
And to now, we've
you guys spend a whole summer there. You have a community there.
Yeah.
It's, you know, you have a very, very full life.
It's incredible. And that coming from, you know, I used to work at my parents' dry cleaners.
Yeah.
Cleaning like armpit stains out of shirts every, you know, summer. My brother didn't even do that. And they could barely make rent. And I remember having to give them one of my grant monies so that they could pay rent for the store. It's incredible.
Wow.
It's incredible how far we've come. And therefore, you know, people say like manifest, like, I'm like, you know, and then I find myself praying to God and being like, God, you know, you've given me so much. Just, I pray for the children's health and Adonis's health, and that's all I can ask for.
Yeah.
I feel like I just cannot ask for anything. It just, I'm already so grateful.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we need to all lean into.
Yeah. I think that's
having
really good.
that and a friend in you that recognizes that. Because it's not, I feel like I don't see that often.
Yeah.
You know, and so connecting with you on this level, we really have a true friendship where we get each other.
Yeah.
And you make me a better person.
Yeah. Oh,
so thank
you.
I know you were asking me like, you're going to give me some wisdom for turning 43, but no, I get it from you and from us having these conversations. And well, there it is, Jane. You just reminded me, like, remember, never forget where you came from.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're going to be 40.
I know. In 2 short months.
Are you ready?
I'm actually going to be in Korea. We're going to be...
You're going to go to Korea for your 40?
Go to Korea, so I'll report back
family?
The political climate. Yes, as a family. So I have a cousin who's getting married there. She's a distant cousin.
Okay.
But she's actually technically my cousin's daughter.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, but we're their closest, like, extended family.
Amazing.
So my parents are going to go. They're going to be there.
What month is this?
February.
Wow.
Yeah, and so we will be there at the same time as my parents. We're going to take the kids. They're super excited. We warned them it's going to be very cold.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Korean weather is, it's cold and the summers are hot.
I think I would rather freeze my butt off than melt
hot.
my butt off.
Yeah. You didn't you do a hot summer?
Not in Korea. We did it in October.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
we were out in t-shirts and shorts because it was hot.
Yeah.
We felt it was warm in October.
Wow.
But so when I come back, I'll be 40.
Yes, and you'll
Crazy.
you'll do your reporting.
Yeah.
Your journalist skills will be put to the test, Jane. We need to celebrate though.
Yes.
We're going to have to do something.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
All right.
Welcome to the 40s Club.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Not yet, Jane. You still got 2 months.